Hello, and welcome to Stories at Stirchley Library. My name is Sharon. I'm going to be telling you a First Nation story. It's called How the Bear Lost His Tail. Have you ever wondered why bears look so grumpy? You meet them in the woods, nose to nose, and they look so scowly, and they're so growly, and they have sharp claws on the end of their paws. Why don't they ever look happy? Could it be because they have short, stumpy tails? Because I'll let you in on a little secret just between you and me. Shh, don't tell anyone. Once upon a time, bears had long, silky tails. Did you know that? But how did they lose them? Let's find out. I'll tell you the story. Once, Bear had a beautiful long silky tail that was so soft when you touched it. Ah, and he would walk through the woods, up the path, head held high in the sky, and he'd be swishing that tail behind him. Swish, 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 wagging it just like a friendly dog. If he met any of the other animals in the woods where they all lived, oh, he would brag about it. And he'd swish it in their faces, going swish, 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 swish. And he'd say, "Don't I have a beautiful tail? Come on, you have to say, it's a lovely tail, isn't it? It's so soft when you touch it. You like my tail?" And while he was swishing it in their faces, swish, swish, they'd be saying, "Yes, Bear, it's a lovely tail." And after they said that, he would raise his head in the air and he would walk up the path, waddling from side to side, swishing that tail along as he did. Swish, 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 swish. And he'd go high up into the hills, that little cave, that cozy little cave, which was his home. When Bear was out of sight, oh, the animals would mutter, and they would mumble, and they would grumble, for they were fed up of Bear swishing his tail in their faces. But the one animal who was really fed up was Fox. Fox had a beautiful long swishy tail, but he didn't brag about it. He didn't swish it in the faces of all the other animals. Fox, though, liked to play tricks on all the other animals, and he wanted to play a trick on Bear to teach him a lesson. So he made a plan. It was winter, and snow covered the hills and all the trees. It was crisp and white. The air was so cold that when you spoke or when you breathed out, it would form little clouds that would drift up to the sky. The lake, where the woods surrounded it, and it was so cold that the water froze, and it was so hard and thick you could walk across it. When the humans and the animals used to fish, they made holes in the ice, and there they waited for the fish to swim along, where the animals would scoop it up with their paws, or the humans fishing would whip it out with their rods. Well, Fox got up early one morning. He left his lair, his home, and went down to his little larder. There he brought out some fish, which he'd caught earlier. He then made his way down to the lake, where, on reaching the ice, he laid down the fish and he made a hole in it, and he waited. Because he knew that every single day Bear would walk along the edge of the lake, the shoreline, and his nose would be deep into the snow, and he'd be snuffling and digging and searching around for roots or plants to eat. He sat down, and he didn't have long to wait, for he soon heard Bear snuffling along the edge of the lake, looking for plants and roots, looking for something to eat. As soon as Bear came into sight, Fox sat down, put his tail through the hole in the ice. "Oh, that's cold," he said to himself, and then called over to Bear. "Hey, Bear, come on over here. See what I'm doing." And Bear lifted his nose up out of the snow and looked at the ice and saw where Fox was sitting with fish on either side. "Hello, Fox. What are you doing?" "Oh," said Fox, calling out to him, "I'm fishing. Come on over." So Bear put his paws on the ice and began to walk across carefully and slowly so that he wouldn't slip and fall. When he reached Fox, he saw that his tail was through the ice. "Fox, what are you doing? You said you were fishing, but with your tail through that hole in the ice?" "Oh, yes," said Fox. "I often do this. It's the easiest way to go fishing for fish, as you can see on either side. But what you have to do is put your tail through the hole in the ice, as I'm doing now, and you sit very still and you do not say a word. Eventually, the fish will swim underneath, see your tail, thinks it's something to eat, nibble at it, you whip it out, and there! This is how I got all my fish. Would you like to have a turn?" "Oh," said Bear, who'd had no breakfast that morning and hadn't been able to find anything to eat. "I'd love to, Fox. That's so kind of you." As Fox got up and he lifted his tail out through the hole in the ice, and he gathered up all his fish, and he said, "Well, you know what you have to do, Bear. Put your tail through the hole in the ice, do not move, and do not say a word. And before you know it, you'll have all these fish like I have. Well, good luck." And he trotted away and was gone. Bear did as Fox told him to do, and he sat down and he put his beautiful long tail through the hole in the ice. "Oh, that's so cold." And he felt all that cold, icy water around his tail. He did as Fox told him to do, and he sat very, very still, did not say a word. He breathed very quietly, and he waited, and he waited, and he waited, and he waited. For waiting can be very, very tiring, and he soon was fast asleep. When he woke up, oh, oh, it was so, so cold. And looking around him, he could see it was starting to get dark because the sun was beginning to set behind the trees and the hills. "Oh, I don't care about the fish," Bear said to himself. "I just want to go home to my cozy, warm little cave in the hills." And so he tried to get to his feet, but as he did, he couldn't. He tried again, but he couldn't. "What's happening? What's happening?" And he looked down. His beautiful tail had got stuck in the ice. Because it was so cold, the hole had closed up and had frozen solid around his tail. "Oh, my tail! Well, I can't stay here," he said to himself. "I'll freeze to death." So he began to pull, and he tugged, and he tugged, and he pulled, and he pulled, and he tugged, and he tugged, and he pulled, and he staggered and fell forward. And he looked behind. His tail had snapped off my beautiful tail. Oh no! He said to himself, oh no, my beautiful tail. And then he knew what had happened. Fox! He played a mean trick on me. He knew that I might lose my tail. You can't go fishing with a tail. I should have known. Oh no. As he sadly began to make his way home to his little cozy cave high up in the hills. Oh, he said to himself again, wait till I meet Fox. Oh, we'll never be friends now. That was so mean of him. And he walked through the woods up into the hills where he reached the little cave where he went in. And he had a very sad time sleeping that night, still unhappy that he'd lost his long and beautiful tail. And after that, Fox and Bear were never ever friends again. And that's why bears are always so grumpy, because they've lost their long, beautiful, silky tails. Well, thank you for listening to my story. And I'll be back again next month with more stories at Stirchley Library.